I'm Agent Ghost, and welcome to the archives. I just wanna... Oh, just hang on. I think I left the window open. Just give me a sec. Whew, now that we're not dealing with that sandstorm out there, I just have a question for you. Do you like infinite ammo? I love infinite ammo. Let's have everyone have infinite ammo. Woo!
System curtailed. Reactor unstable. Emergency lockdown protocols activated. 15 minutes lockdown.
Excessive power method. Increased probability of instability or overloaded power grid.
System back online. Area secure. Hostile assault turret detected. Hostile incinerator turret. High master target detected.
Welcome back, and I just want to give a shout out to my bestie. He knows who he is out there, and hopefully he sees this in the video, but I just want to give him a shout out because he said he was working on a similar build to this, which inspired me to want to do my own take on it. So here's my iteration of this build. Now, without further ado, let's go on to the build breakdown. Enjoy! Starting things off with the specialization, I am currently using the survivalist specialization for the increased healing it provides, as well as access to the Mender Secret Mind, which is very important in this build, as well as the damage from elites. All of those are why I'm using the survivalist specialization. Now moving on to the weapons, I am using the Bluescreen LMG. You can only get this from completing a quest chain. I will link down in the description below a guide to how to obtain this, and then once you have it unlocked in your general loot pool, then you can just farm for LMGs in the countdown. So my core attribute, I have 13% LMG damage and 10% damage targets out of cover, and I have damage to armor rolled on mine in the regular attribute. Now I'm using this for the talent disruptor rounds, which does shooting an enemy marks that enemy and adds a stack to the agent up to a count of 50. Shooting a marked enemy refreshes the mark and adds stacks to the agent. When you deploy a non-shield skill, remove all stacks on agent and all marked targets trigger an effect. So essentially, once we get to all 50 stacks, you want to use deploy a non-shield skill, and it will activate these effects, which we'll go over right now. To 1 to 10 stacks, the pulse marked targets for 5 seconds. So when you get deploy your non-shield skill between 1 to 10 stacks, it will just pulse the target for 5 seconds. From 11 to 25 stacks, pulse and disrupt marked targets for 5 seconds. From 26 to 49 stacks, pulse, disrupt, and disorientate marked targets for 5 seconds. And at 50 stacks pulse, you will pulse, disrupt, and disorientate marked targets and all hostiles within 10 meters of the marked targets for 5 seconds. This effect will trigger immediately if any marked enemies is killed. So what you want to do is build up all the way to 50 stacks, or at least you want to be able to get the disorientate, so 26 to 49 stacks to proc, and we'll go over more that later on in the build. But that's why I'm using the Bluescreen, is to take advantage of those debuffs that it will apply once you achieve up to 50 stacks. Now moving on to my secondary, you can use whatever secondary you want, but I really think this one has an amazing amount of synergy with the Bluescreen. Now to go over it, I'm using the Grudge named SMG, and there are my core attributes. I have 15% SMG damage, 21% crit hit chance, and the regular attribute plus 10% damage targets out of cover, which is the highest multiplicative damage attribute in the game currently. And I'm using it for the talent Perfect Vindictive. Killing an enemy with a status effect applied grants you and all allies within 20 meters 18% crit hit chance and 18% crit hit damage for 20 seconds. So with this like infinite ammo support type build, if you switch to your secondary and you kill enemy with status effects, which you're going to be able to apply a lot with this build, you'll be able to help you and your allies get 18% crit hit chance and crit hit damage. That's why I love using it. There are the mods if you want to pause, copy, and paste. Those are the mods I'm using. And speaking of which, like I said, you can use whatever secondary you want. You don't have to, and that goes into the disclaimer I like to say for all my builds, is please use this and all my builds as a starting template and make any changes that you see fit, whether that's skills, armor, or weapons, or even the specialization. Experiment and have fun. That's kind of the most satisfying or enjoyment part of this game that I love, is to experiment and have fun. So please do so. Now, moving on to my sidearm, I'm using the TDI card custom. Again, you really don't have, you can use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be this, but I'm using it for the extra skill tier it provides, so I can switch to it. And keep in mind that skill tier only applies when you are holding the SMG, so you have to be holding it. So me using it right now like this, that's the only time you're going to get the skill tier. But I'm using it for that. I have pistol damage focused on mine, and then for the talent I have Finisher, which swapping from this weapon within 10 seconds of killing an enemy grants 30% crit hit chance and crit hit damage for 15 seconds. You can switch that to whatever you want. That's just what I have on mine. And then there are the mods if you want to copy and paste. Now moving on to the gear set. I'm currently using the ongoing directive gear set. Actually, let's start with the chest piece. and I'm using that because it's going to pair perfectly with our blue screen. So, and gives us the whole infinite ammo part of the build. Now, starting with having 2 pieces of the ongoing directive, you get plus 15% status effects, very important since we're trying to apply status effects throughout this build. 3 pieces, we get 30% reload speed, just handy for reloading our weapons, especially since we're using an LMG, so as much reload speed as we can get is amazing. And then for 4 pieces, the whole enchilada of this entire build gives rules of engagement. And what that does is shooting a status affected enemy will apply a mark. Killing a marked enemy grants a full clip of hollow point ammo for your active weapon and half a clip of the agent's active weapon to the rest of the party. Mark lasts for 10 seconds. Hollow point ammo amplifies weapon damage by 20% and applies bleed on hit. So that's the infinite ammo part of this build. Since we're going to be using the LMG mass majority of the time, that magazine of 100, even at half, will be 50 mag towards your allies, and we'll be killing and reloading so much that we pretty much are going to always have the ability to be giving hollow point rounds to our entire team or just ourselves, which is just crazy. I absolutely love it. So that's why I'm using ongoing directive. Now, moving on to the core attribute, I have 11.7% weapon damage. You can get maxed out to 15%. And in the regular attributes, I have 10% status effects. Again, important part of the build since we're going to be applying status effects with blue screen. With the blue screen. And if we get all 50 stacks, as well as the hollow point ammo, which is bleed, bleed on hit, which is great. And then I have a 5.8% crit hit chance mod. Now moving on to the backpack, we already went over the entire gear set bonus. So in the core attribute, I have 13.4% weapon damage, and plus in the regular attribute, I have plus 10% status effects again, and 5.9% crit hit chance mod. Now in the holster, I have 13.4% weapon damage and plus 10% status effects rolled in the regular attribute. For the final piece, I have 10.8% weapon damage, and again, you probably guessed it, 10% status effects. Now, we're going to go over the exotic headpiece vial, and I'm using this because it pairs really nicely with us proccing and using our status effects, which also gives in the regular attribute extra status effects. So in the core attribute, I have 1 skill tier, regular attribute 8.7% status effects, 10% hazard protection, and a plus 6% crit hit chance mod. Just throw your highest chance crit hit chance mod you want in there. Now, here's the reason why I'm using it for the talent Toxic Delivery. Status effects also apply a damage over time debuff for 10 seconds. So just another debuff on top of it. Total damage dealt is equal to 50% of your concussion grenade damage, and increased concussion grenade damage and increased by your status effect attribute. So all of that is contributed again by our status effect attribute and our concussion grenade, which is just crazy. So it pairs really nicely because, again, we're going to be dropping status effects everywhere. So that's why I'm using the Vial Exotic Mask. Now, move on to the final piece so we can go over the skills and stats, then final gameplay footage. So I'm using in the gloves, the contractor's gloves. These are meta gloves. Very amazing, and the main reason why is because you can, in the regular attribute, you can get 8% damage to armor rolled on them, which just helps us get through that much tanky era of enemies. And for once, when I actually use these in the brand set bonus, it gives us plus 10% LMG damage, which is definitely what we want. So that works out really well. And the core attribute, I have plus 15% weapon damage, and the regular attribute, again, that 8% damage to armor. That's what makes these so good. Oh, love it. And then, you probably guessed it, plus 10% status effects. So before we go over the skills, I do actually want to touch base. For the crit hit chance mods I have in all 3 of my helmet, chest piece, and backpack, you can actually change those out for let me go down. Repair skills I also found to be quite useful because you're not going to get max crit hit chance with this build. But so if you don't want as much damage, or if you're not playing solo and you're playing with a group, I'd recommend, and I've done some experimenting, putting repair skills in all of them to make our healing of our skills that much better. And now we're going to go over the skills right now, but that's just an alternative with the mods for the gear as well. Now, for my first skill, I'm using the Mender Seeker Mine, and again, you can only unlock this through having the Survivalist Specialization, so make sure you have that equipped and unlocked. Now, there are the stats if you want to pause and take a look, but essentially the only thing I want to go over is the healing, which right now I have 30,000 healing per second with the Mender Mine, which what that looks like is, say if I take damage and drop it, and it creates this little aura around me and allies if they're standing in this to heal me, and that's 30,000 healing per second, so, and 15,000 in PvP. Now moving on to the other ability, I'm using the Fixer Drone, and that gives me 28,000 healing. Oh, real quick, before I forget, there are the mods if you want to copy and paste on the Mender Seeker Mine. Now moving on to the Fixer Drone, my apologies. Now, I have 28,000 healing and 14,000 healing per second for PvP. Now there are the mods if you want to copy and paste. I'm using both of these to be kind of the support healing aspect of the build. You can throw both of these at the allies, and again, it's very important for the talent disrupt rounds to where when you deploy a non-skill shield skill, remove all stacks on agent and mark target trigger in effect, which is very important in the build, and we're going to go over that right now. I'm going to show you an example, and then we'll go over stats. So how the blue screen can work is, oh, hang on, I need to set it up to be a named enemy. There we go. Shoot the 5, so it's 5 meters away. Okay. Now, if I shoot the target, and you can see in the bottom of my UI under the ammo, that kind of circle with a target in the middle. When that's max, that means we've achieved max stacks, and then I can deploy my Seeker Drone, and then when that happens, it will trigger a disrupt effect. So when that disrupt effect happens, if I kill the target, then from ongoing directive, it will give us the hollow point rounds. So how that works, here, I'll deactivate my Mender Mine, and that's why you want to have both. I'll also disable skill haste, forgot to do that. So if with skill haste disabled in my build, the skills are about 20 seconds to come back, but just to show off, if I wanted, I'd get this low, but if I wanted, I'd just fill this up. Well, technically I have the hollow point, so it's gonna keep in a perpetual cycle, so I can't really show you again, unless I just waste all my ammo. But essentially, I get the stacks, I build it up, and then once I get past 26 stacks, so it applies the disorientate. You don't need to get all 50, I'd recommend getting all 50, but more than halfway through, and you can more than halfway through with the blue screen, you can 26 to 49 stacks, you'll still get the disorientate debuff. So you want to deploy your skill when it's at least halfway through, and then you want to make sure to finish off your enemy, and then once you finish them off, you basically have an infinite loop of your ammo, and you can deploy both your healing things, so both your Seeker Mind and Fixer Drone, so that way both of them can heal you, or you can send them on an ally to heal up and everything, but it's regenerating my health pretty nicely. So that's why I'm using it. And then this is where the Grudge, I think, has great synergy. If I switch to it and kill it while the blood hollow points are active, it won't only just give me hollow points, as you can see. Now I'm out of hollow points, but you can see the blood still up. If I kill it while it's there, boom, it'll keep giving me hollow points at infinite loop, and it will keep perfect vindictive up basically forever, as long as I keep up killing enemies in time with my hollow points, and it's just a constant cycle. So again, that's why I'm using the Grudge. Now those are the examples. Now let's go on to the stats and then final gameplay footage. So for weapon stats, for my blue screen, I have 122,000 weapon damage, 27.7% crit hit chance. Again, you're not going to get that high. I have the crit hit chance mods to more or less pair with the Grudge SMG, so that way I'm close to 60% with that, but it's not going to be that high up there. So If you want, you can, again, replace that with repair skills. Just keep in mind, you will not be doing as much damage for when you do hit crits, or you will hit crits that much less. Now, 45% crit hit damage, 85% headshot damage, 14% damage to armor, as well as damage to targets out of cover I've rolled on my weapons. That's it for that portion. Now, in offensive, I have 74.3% all weapon damage bonus. We're not using it. 23% light machine gun damage bonus, 15% SMG damage bonus. We're not using it. Moving on, we've already gone over the gear talents and brand set bonuses. So in defense, I have 726,000 armor, just default armor because I don't have any blue cores or any armor cores in this build. Again, because we're trying to support and supply infinite ammo and whatnot, and we get the healing from our mender drone and whatnot. So not a big deal. And 332,000 max health. That's the build, everyone. So please take care. Hang on just a sec. All right. Please take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Be safe and bye.